Hello everyone and welcome to Fantasy Showdown. I'm Alan Cavana. This is the show each week where our rotating panel of experts will help you pick your fantasy lineup for the week and hopefully get you some points and some wins and maybe even some prizes. Joining us this week from Daytona Beach, Florida, our NASCAR.com writer and reporter David Caravello, as well as the NASCAR Senior Manager of Content Communications. We know him better as Mike Ford. Gentlemen, how are you doing down in Florida?
Pretty good, Alan.
I'm doing fantastic, Alan. How's everything up in Charlotte?
It's good. It's not as warm as down there. Now, I see a few smiles still on your faces. Remember, this is a competition, so I want you guys going at it by the time we start making our picks. Just remember that. This Sunday, we'll start the 2013 season with the 55th annual Daytona 500. So before we make our picks, though, we need to go over some of the new rules we have for this NASCAR fantasy game this year. You will pick 5 drivers each week, and you as a player will earn points for laps your drivers lead, fastest laps, quality passes, place differential, and finishing position. 10 bonus points will also be earned for picking the winning manufacturer each race and for picking a top 5 pit crew, so you have to know your stuff in all aspects of the sport. Now all these points, they'll be added together to create a weekly race points total. The player with the highest weekly race points total will then win the week in their league and receive weekly league points similar to those in the NASCAR point structure. Players will also receive a 3-point chase bonus for winning the week in their league. At the beginning of the chase, every team's total league points are reset to 0. Chase points are then added in, then the same weekly scoring structure from the regular season continues for the 10-race chase. So, now that we have that all explained, I'm going to bring back in David and Mike down in Daytona Beach, and they each have 30 seconds to tell me their fantasy dud, their fantasy stud, and the driver to watch. Mike Ford, we're going to start with you. Who is your fantasy stud for the Daytona 500?
All right, I'm loving Tony Stewart. Had a fantastic opening race in the Sprint Unlimited. He's done everything at Daytona International Speedway except win the Daytona 500. You know, he doesn't have a win in the Truck Series, but he has 6 wins in the Nationwide Series, has a handful of Sprint Unlimited wins, handful of dual wins, July race wins, 4. He's even won a couple IROC races, which I know is very important when it comes to picking the Daytona 500. But I love Tony Stewart. I think he's going to have a great race. This is the only hole in his resume. I think it's going to be Tony's race to lose, and I think he's going to finally get the Daytona 500. He's been so sorely missing.
David, I can see the look on your face. You're going to pick different. 30 seconds. Who's your fantasy stud for Daytona?
You're bringing up IROC races. You're bringing that to the table. You're the one with senior in your title. I need to talk to my agent. Listen, it's hard to overlook that 20 car so far in Speed Weeks. You know, sneaky fast in pole qualifying, sneaky fast in the Sprint Unlimited. You know, Matt Kenseth does not get the credit he deserves for being one of the great restrictor plate drivers of his generation, but he's always been kind of a lurker. He hangs around, he's patient, and he strikes when the moment is right. You're tailor-made to win Daytona 500s when you're like that. He's won 2 of them, and that's how he's going to win on Sunday.
All right, we talked about the fantasy studs. Now we're going to talk about the fantasy duds. Those drivers, remember, it's a budget. You get a $100 budget, and each driver has an assigned value. So, David, we'll keep it with you. I want to know your fantasy dud. Who's that driver that's just too expensive to get this week and bring into the Daytona 500 and end up hurting your team? Who's your pick?
Listen, Alan, if Speed Weeks was all about foot racing, Jimmy Johnson would dominate in every facet. He turned in an awesome time in the half marathon here last week, but his restrictor plate luck right now is just terrible. Wrecked out of the Sprint Unlimited. You know, didn't finish 3 of the 4 plate races last year. The one he did finish, he had a wrecked race car. You know, he's a great, great champion. You can't deny what the guy's done, but I wouldn't touch him here.
All right, Mike, your fantasy dud, who should we stay away from?
Well, I mean, I'm not picking a former Daytona 500 champion to not win the Daytona 500 this year because that's absolutely ridiculous. But I'm going with Brad Keselowski, and for some of the reasons that DC brought up, there seems to be a champion hangover. Drive rating, which is my favorite fantasy stat when analyzing my team. His drive rating is not very good. It's 67.5, and his average finish is not good either at Daytona, 24.9. So at Daytona, I would go elsewhere. He's a little too expensive. I think he might be, you know, top 2 or 3 most expensive drivers in a fantasy live game.
All right, we've got studs, duds. Now we're looking at the ones to watch. This is where you guys will earn your money here because I want to know who's that undervalued driver that might be a steal when you have a limited budget. Mike, we're going to keep it with you. Who is that driver that you're really looking at for a value pick this week?
All right, I'm loving this value pick. I got to be honest, obviously I'm biased since it's my pick, but Jeff Burton, I think he's going to be great this weekend. His last 2 finishes at Daytona, both top 5 finishes. Top 5s in 3 of the last 5 at Daytona, and he has Luke Lambert, his crew chief, back on the box. The last time they were together at a play track, Talladega, will runner-up finish. I think it's going to be some more chemistry going on, so I like Burton a lot. Very sneaky pick this weekend.
David Caravello, 30 seconds. Who's your fantasy driver to watch?
What was Burton in qualifying? 26th, I think, something like that. But hey, if you want to take a flyer, let's take a flyer. All right, the Richard Petty Motorsports cars are usually really competitive at Daytona. It's Roush equipment, it's Roush engines. So listen, you want a value pick? Look at a guy like Eric Almirola. He doesn't have a whole lot of experience in NASCAR. You know, he's still only been doing this for a couple of years, but the RPM cars are usually pretty good here. Eric takes care of equipment. He's usually pretty good on big, fast tracks. So, you know, you want to take a flyer on somebody who's a real value pick. You could do a lot worse than Eric Almirola.
That does it for this week's analysis, so I hope that's helped you out. If you need more facts, figures, analysis, any information and news, log on to fantasygames.nascar.com. And for Mike Ford and David Caravello down at Daytona International Speedway, I'm Alan Cavana. Have a great weekend and good luck picking.